Hello, everybody. This is Stosh from Collected Transients. I've just released a new sound effects library called Massive Movement that I'm very proud of. It was a multi-years long effort to record gigantic things, primarily the bridges that lift in Chicago. And I'm really happy to put it out in the world. But I wanted to try something a little different with this as I release it. So I buy sound effects libraries. I'm assuming you do too if you're looking at this. I've found it's not always easy to get the best picture of what the end product is when you're purchasing a sound effects library, which it's a difficult thing to just make a quick demo of and write up about, and the metadata and all that. Like, you can use all those things to get a pretty good idea of what you're getting with a library, but there have been times, unfortunately, where I've purchased sound effects libraries and felt misled, or just haven't been quite as happy as I hoped I would have been with the library. Most of the time, that's not the case. But anyways, my experience with that has led me to come up with an idea of making like a audio demo walkthrough, or I should say a sound effects library walkthrough, to really show what this sound effects library, if you purchase it, would be like when you scan it into your library and when you're playing with it. So I'm using SoundMiner, and I just kind of want to jump and play through a good number of the files, and also show you what you can do with some very basic pitch shift and reversing, which to me are two very important tools in sound design, and I think can kind of help you get an idea of the capabilities of this library in design and in literal use if you happen to be working on a film or game that has bridges lifting. So that's the goal. I'm going to try it out with this. If you guys like it, let me know, and maybe I'll do it for some of my past libraries, or I'll definitely keep it going if that's the case. So here we go. Let's jump in. This is Massive Movement. So let's start with kind of the meat of the library, these bridge lifts. Just quick little background. The bridges are Chicago's bascule bridges is the technical name for them. They're bridges with a gigantic counterweight on one end so they can lift up over the river to allow boat traffic through. I think the first recording for this library was done at least 3 years ago. I recorded one bridge going up, and it made a very cool sound, and I was kind of hooked. The thing with the bridges, though, is they don't always make sounds. In fact, I would say most of them don't make sounds very often at all. But when they do, there's some really unique, gigantic sounding creaks and groans and impacts. So I spent a very long time recording these, many days coming home with nothing. But when I did come home with cool stuff, it was just an insanely rewarding feeling. So I'm happy to share them with you now. So yeah, let's start. Here's a bridge lift. Oh, I love those sounds. Obviously, I'm not going to play through every single file all the way through or anything, because I don't want people to try to steal the sounds, but I want to give you an idea what they sound like. Just these gigantic groans, and I can slow it down a little bit. Maybe reverse it. So it's these really cool metal groans. I'll play through a few more of them. This one's a lot of low, very low sounding rumbling with debris coming down. Again, more kind of grinding sounds. Very low sounds. And I should note, you'll see these are all called lift up. If I scroll down, there should be, oh yeah, lower down. Any ones of those are where I was able to record basically the entire sequence of a bridge going from down to up or up to down. It was very difficult recording these bridges because, you know, you're in the middle of a gigantic city, and they raise them when the weather's nice, so people are out. It took very opportune moments and chance to get clean recordings of entire bridge lifts. So yeah, that's the kind of general vibe of full bridge lifts. I guess here, let's play through some of the lowers. So this is Lakeshore Drive, or as they call it now, Point du Sable, Lakeshore Drive. Big groans. Again, LaSalle. It's a very groany, low tones. And a nice big rattle like that. Let's reverse that. You slow it down. Let's see here. We'll get back to those after this. So yeah, the bridges, more often than not, I wasn't able to get entire recordings of them going all the way up and all the way down because a boat would go by or people would come by and go, oh my gosh, or whatever. But there are a lot of kind of individual sounds, little snippets that I was able to save and capture. Let's start with these. So the bridges, like I said, lift like that. But there's a lock, I believe it's on the back side of the bridge somewhere, that keeps it from just suddenly flipping up, because they're actually balanced really well. It doesn't take much power to lift them up because of the counterweight. But anyways, so with every bridge lift, there's these gigantic locks that they have to pull out. Don't quote me, it could be something a little more fancy than that, but there's big hunks of metal that need to move in order to let the bridge swing freely. So I have a lot of those. So this is Columbus. Its locks were always very squeaky and here's Franklin. Kind of like this metal drag kind of sound. LaSalle. Also very just friction metal sounds. This is Michigan Avenue, which had probably the biggest sounding locks every time. I loved them. It's just this raw, kind of beefy metal sound that I just love. State. Wells. Oh, and Lakeshore Drive. So yeah, those are the locks. But like I said, I was able to capture a lot of snippets. So let's jump through some of those. Of just, this is the bridges in their movement. Maybe the entire time they aren't making a sound until just right here, and there's a gigantic groan. So that's what all these are. Big metal groan there. Huge metal creak. Just really cool sounds. that was a gigantic sound. I remember that. I remember literally freaking out the second it happened, because normally they aren't that loud. Again, a huge creak. Let's reverse that for the hell of it. And then let's see, what's it sound like slowed down? It's pretty cool. One thing I've found kind of unique about this library is usually you're having to take, if you want to make something feel big and gigantic, a lot of times you might slow down the sound to make it sound big. This library obviously is literally big, and in my opinion, sounds pretty big, so you don't need a ton of pitch shift to pull that off, but nevertheless, it sounds pretty cool. Huge creaks again from LaSalle. We got these little squeaks, gigantic squeaks from Lake Michigan. And groans and all this stuff, so I won't play through all of them, but let's see. Oh yeah, I should mention there was a different kind of bridge. Those were all bascule bridges I was playing, but there's also one bridge in kind of the Chinatown neighborhood of Chicago that is a vertical lift bridge, and it's not for vehicles, it's for trains. I got a ton of really, really, really nice recordings of that bridge, and it made it was way more consistent at making sounds. So let's play through some of those. So it's this just heavy, rolling, rattling metal sound, and that's it going up. Usually it didn't make too much sound going up, so most of these are going down. There we go. That's what I was trying to find. So this was a super kind of really squeaky bridge. I wish I had better words than squeaky, but it's escaping me right now. And yeah, it's a gigantic, I wish I remembered the weight, bridge that goes up and down just vertically. And as you can see here, has these huge impacts as it lands at the bottom. Let's just reverse that for the fun of it. Just massive sound. And then all these rattles afterwards. So again, I got a lot of those. And it had these beautiful groans. And sometimes more subtle sit downs. So, yeah, sometimes I could never figure out why. Sometimes they would blare kind of a warning siren before and sometimes after the bridge finished its lift. I don't know what it was about. I mean, I know what it's about. It's to let boats know, and I assume trains know that, hey, this bridge is about to lift. But it was very inconsistent as to when it did it. But it's this cool sounding siren. So they would do that, and again, just more awesome groaning and rumbling and rattling from this big bridge. So, anyways, those are the bridges of the library. I'm super proud of them, and I hope you enjoy them. Probably the next biggest part was the trains. I always have recorded a lot of trains, and I wanted to include some of my favorite recordings here. So I won't spend too much time on these. You guys know what trains sound like. But they're just very Very clean sounding bridges, or sorry, clean sounding trains. Just these awesome fast and slow bys of freight trains. I got this recording. It was a very, very close recording of a train. Let's see. This one was the noisiest train I've ever heard in my entire life, of just constant screeching. But as you can hopefully hear, there's a lot of what I believe was the railroad ties, the wooden railroad ties right there, moving, which I thought was cool. So yeah, just some really clean bridge, or I keep saying bridge, some really clean train recordings. Okay, so I should say there's two kind of unique things about the trains, though. I've included a high-speed train. America's, as far as I know, only true high-speed rail, which is the, I'm going to mispronounce it here, but it's the Acela, A-C-E-L-A express train that runs from, I believe, Boston to D.C., back and forth. So I went and recorded that, and it was a very cool sound. Just very cool high-speed trains. There was also some lower-speed trains that went by on the same track. Just very clean kind of metal whoosh, as you can see here, kind of recordings. The other note for the trains was I recorded a lot of Chicago CTA trains. So I have kind of the typical, what you might think of Chicago train sounds. Just that very kind of iconic sound of the L trains, because it's elevated, going overhead. It's just this noisy, heavy metal movement. So that's trains going straight on kind of an interchange, but I also made sure to record turns, which sound very different. And if you've been in Chicago, I'm assuming this is a familiar sound to you. I've never heard any other train sound like that, at least to my ears. So yeah, a lot of iconic kind of Chicago sounds. But the other thing with the Chicago trains was the same bridges that I recorded that lift up and down. Two of them, the CTA trains go over. And when they go over them, they make a lot of noise. So I recorded those two bridges from different perspectives. Let's do this one. So this is like basically me standing on the sidewalk right beneath the train that's going overhead. And it's going in between this big gap and makes these very, very loud bangs. So I got some of those. It's just these super clean metal hits. With a decent amount of ultrasonic information in them. And then I also recorded them from below the bridge, kind of on the river walk, to give a more of a wide perspective. As you heard, those are fairly dry sounding, you might call them, but these really capture kind of the size of these bridges as the train goes over. All right. So yeah, that's the general idea of the trains, I think. A few other things I recorded. Let's start with the Funicular. So this was kind of a random trip I went to go record. This is reminding me how far back I did this. This is when I recorded the Hail Cannon for another library of mine, Combustion. But on the way there, I came across a Funicular that I recorded. So, just have a few kind of unique recordings. I got private access to this area where you can... It's open to the public for them to be able to let people see how the machinery works, but I was able to convince them to let me in there just by myself, which is cool. So yeah, that was, let's see, that was by the roll of wire. This is a pulley. It's just these cool metal friction sounds. And then I recorded kind of at track level too for more kind of a literal sound of what it might sound like being by the tracks when the funicular's going up and down. Another thing I did were these cellar doors, which are some of the coolest sounding doors, and they're kind of a part of my childhood. It's the house I grew up in, and it's a kind of like, we called it the storm shelter. But it's just doors to get into the basement. But over the years, they became very rusty and very, very, very noisy. So just playing these just brings back memories to me. But anyways, they're these very, very, as you can hear, noisy doors. And the cool thing about them is they have a ton of ultrasonic information, so you can slow them way, way, way down. Oh, yeah. Those are cool. So I know that's a little cheating per the theme of the library. These aren't literally massive doors, but I just, after I recorded them, I slowed them down, and I was just really impressed with the kind of sounds you could get out of them. They also sound pretty cool in reverse. It's like those little tings of the metal jittering kind of just sound very unique in reverse. So I could see a million things you could do with that. Lastly, for the fun of it, I recorded a playground roundabout with contact mics. Oh, I should speed it back up. So it's just this very hollow, big metal sound. And I recorded it at a few different speeds. And yeah, you can slow it down to give this, I don't know, it could be a gigantic machine, a gigantic ball rolling. It's just cool kind of sound. So yeah, that's Massive Movement. I hope this has given you a pretty good idea of it, of what you're going to get if you purchase it. If you do purchase it, I hope you enjoy it. I'm excited for it to be out in the world, and I'm excited to hear and see all the things that it ends up in. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch. I appreciate your support, and have a good night.